All right, welcome back to Brighter Rays. We are looking at Genesis chapter 49. Today we're looking at 13 through 21. This is a prophecy about all the other children of Jacob. So, well, most of the other kids, except for Joseph and Benjamin. We'll look at them next time. But let's look at these ones here, 13 through 21. And verse 13 starts with Zebulun, and it says, Zebulun shall dwell, which is a play on words, since his name means high or lofty dwelling. So he's saying, Zebulun, Zebulun will dwell. So it's a play on words here. It's poetic, remember? So Jacob says that Zebulun would dwell at the shore, and his border shall be at Sidon. Now, if you look at a map of where Zebulun's borders were, you'll notice that most maps have Zebulun landlocked. It's not on the shore at all. Was Jacob's prophecy wrong? Is it talking about some other time? Many explanations make a credible attempt at explaining the seeming discrepancy. The fact is, we don't know where the borders of Zebulun are because we don't really know all the cities that they're talking about. We haven't discovered all these cities of Zebulun. So really the maps are just kind of a guess. The maps, though they have, a lot of them are similar, they're all going off after the same guesses. So the gospel writer Matthew and Josephus, the Jewish historian, who wrote at about the same time actually, both state that Zebulun had land along the Sea of Galilee. Josephus also mentions that the territory in his day had extended to the Mediterranean Sea. So, the borders might have been more fluid than what we maybe understood. Even though there's the command of not moving, the stone of your brother on his property, so you're not changing property lines, and the land was supposed to stay with the people. And, Joshua divided out the land, but that doesn't mean that that the property lines didn't change, that, as time went on, as different tribes grew and different ones shrank, that the property, the possessions didn't change. And so we have here, Josephus is right, and he would know. I mean, he's a Jew. He's living at the time around Christ. Zebulun might have changed. Where the people that identified with the tribe of Zebulun were living might have been on both shores. So if we look at, Matthew talks about it too, how that Zebulun was on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. Could be. So I think the maps might be right for a certain period of time, but maybe not of all time. So since both those writers mention it, it's probably good. It's probably, it was probably on the sea. So we probably shouldn't look for it. We don't really need to look for a further fulfillment for that one. That's probably true. Now we get to Issachar here, and his tribe would be a strong people that worked hard and would be keepers of animals. The land that they inhabited would be a good land and a place of resting. But like an idle donkey, he would rather become a servant and bow his shoulder than to lose his place. So you kind of get the idea that, Issachar, the place that they resided was a good place for animals, but when push came to shove, they would just give in. Now Dan, this prophecy has been interpreted in two main ways. The tribe of Dan, though it descended from a son of a concubine, would be equal in status with the other tribes. The serpent in 17 is a poisonous snake that would blend in with its surroundings and then strike when unexpected. So that's what's talking about Dan. The second interpretation is that this reference is to Samson, the Danite. He is one of the tribe of Dan. He would judge Israel. And like that snake struck the Philistines, like, that serpent does here. So he is the snake that strikes. The last phrase has been viewed either as a separate exclamation of Jacob waiting for the Lord's salvation, or that shows that the nature of Dan would be good and alluding to the salvation of the Lord. So there's two different interpretations. Some have Jacob just pausing here in the middle of his speech and saying, "Oh God, I wait for your salvation." And then you have some other people think, well, maybe he's talking about how Dan, if it is, that's where really the the argument for Samson really comes in, because it's talking about Samson. Samson did save the people. Oh, we're waiting for the salvation of the Lord. Samson did. Now, is that what it's talking about? Could be. We can't be 100% sure. But that is a good explanation, Or the other explanation of where he's just making that statement. Either way, it's a good statement. So we can go with that. All right, so let's take a look at Gad next, because the sentence on Gad is very repetitive in Hebrew, with really the same root sound repeated over and over again, which the ESV attempts to capture by using the word raid. It says raiders will attack Gad, but Gad would triumph. As it says in 1 Chronicles about Gad, from the Gadites there went over to David at the stronghold in the wilderness mighty and experienced warriors, expert with shield and spear, whose faces were like the faces of lions, and who were swift as gazelles upon the mountains. So, you get this idea. This is a mighty warrior tribe. These Gadites were like, they were the soldier class. They were a family of just brutal men who could, you didn't want to go up against the Gadites. They're using their sword, the spears and their shields, and they're going to tear you up. So that's who the Gadites are. That's who they become. And in time of David, we see that they are who Jacob says they are. Now we come to Asher, and this is a fairly straightforward phrase here in Jacob's prophecy. The tribe of Asher would be richly blessed and would have rich delicacies. They would make delicacies. That's what Asher would do. So pretty straightforward. Then we get to Naftali, another short message, but it also contains the imagery of prosperity and abundance. So these tribes both would be prosperous in their time. In their heyday, they would be have lots of abundance. So the idea of delicacies and here of abundance in Naftali show that these two tribes would do well in their day. Of course, we know what happens to Israel and later on, but these prophecies would be fulfilled in their day. So that is the end of the other son. So come back next time and we'll take a look at Joseph and Benjamin, the last two, and see what happens with them.